People who need people are the luckiest people in the world, and I've got you. People, I know you're a hippie. Yes, and I still got a crush on. Stop interrupting my act. On God bless.
Right. Hello, everybody. Hello, Jack. Thank you so much for joining.
What a great intro. Man.
I did my best. While Ella was leaving, we are coming in.
Man, first up to me, you could play Ella for the next hour.
You can't go wrong with Ella.
No.
So I got asked why I'm doing a live stream about the oldies but goodies Pablo label records, and it's exactly because of the oldies but goodies. I'm a huge Ella fan. I love her later recordings, and I must admit, Pablo Records, they sound phenomenal. They are widely available. They are cheap, and just because you're getting old doesn't mean that you're getting worse. Like in case of Ella Fitzgerald, she's phenomenal. And Jack was one of the only guys I found on YouTube who ever did a video about Pablo Records. I, by the way, enjoy his Straight with Jack channel anyway. So I'm very happy, Jack, that you took the time and we discuss a little bit about the history and everything. And each of you who is in the Peanut Gallery is welcome to ask questions if we are able to answer them. So to make a long story short, Jack, please introduce yourself. The stage is yours.
Wow. Well, hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I see some people already here that I know from other live streams, and thank you all. So, yeah, I mean, I have this YouTube channel, and I want it to be a little different from everything else that we see. You know, there's a lot of folks who, and they do great stuff. They talk about the new reissues and look how great the cover is, and look how this is real quiet vinyl, and there's so much around, like Nadine said, that is you can find in good condition and great music. And that's kind of what I don't talk a lot about brand new records. What if they're really good, I'll talk about them, but I leave that to some of the other people who do a great job. And having said that, Pablo, to me, is maybe the most underrated jazz-oriented record label in existence, or has ever existed. It's a bold statement, but the artists that have appeared in the 600 or so records that Pablo's issued are amazing. Norman Granz didn't want any new talent. He wanted to use established big-name people when he started Pablo. And, you know, you can find the recordings in good condition. I'm going to show you some unsealed ones I'm going to open this week for relatively inexpensive prices, less than these new reissues. And without exception, I can't think of a really bad sounding Pablo records. Some of them are just amazingly engineered. They used RCA a lot to record some other things. Um, it's really a good thing. I'm going to pull this mic a little closer. It might help this out. And I look more professional. I look like I'm going to do the news. I'm not going to do that. So Pablo is, I think, everybody's Blue Note this and Prestige this. Pablo, man, it's great stuff. It's something that everyone should know about.
So Pablo is not known, I have here some, for their great cover art. I show you some of these. They're not very flattering pictures. So, but the content is absolutely stunning. But Jack, how did Pablo actually start?
Well, Norman Granz, and a lot of you may know this, so I don't want to bore you. I'll give you a really quick little history. Norman Granz owned a couple labels early in his career that went away. He's really known for Verve Records. And he started Verve back in the day and signed Ella, because Ella was married to Ray Brown and Ella was on Decca, and he signed Ella because Ella was important and was a big first star attraction for Verve. He sold Verve and didn't do a whole lot, lived in Europe and got really bored with life and wanted to start a new record label. So thus, Pablo came into existence. Norman Granz owned Clef, and he owned a label called Norgram. And then Verve, which was later MGM, and now Verve's Pablo's owned now by Concord, the Concord people, Fantasy Concord. Pablo was distributed by RCA Records a lot, and it's good that they were, because they got the notoriety they needed. So, yeah, I mean, they have a whole lot of different series, and basically in 1987 they started with their latest, I think, series. Maybe it was a little earlier than that, but they began in 74 and ended 85, 86, maybe 87 when Fantasy bought them. But they had the 2310, 700, 800, and 900, which was CDs only in 84, I believe. But 500, 5 or 600 labels, records were pressed for Pablo.
So Norman was actually a huge Pablo Picasso fan. That's why the label is called Pablo. And as far as I know, he had to sell some of his Picassos to make the label happen. Is that true?
I heard that too. And, I don't know if it's true, but I think, he didn't make a whole lot of money prior to Verve, but I think he did pretty well when he sold Verve at the time. I think he recouped a lot of money. So maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But he and Pablo Picasso were pretty good friends, especially in the European, when he lived in Switzerland. Norman Granz.
So the dog, which is supposed to be a dog, was also drawn by Pablo Picasso, and we were questioning. I make myself big so you can have a better impression. Yeah. I was questioning Jack if he think that this dog is. Don't get me wrong, but when I looked at that label and thought it was a dog, is this dog peeing? So is he lifting up his leg? We don't know.
We don't know. Somebody here might. But none of them I have are, and they're either there's the orange label, there's what you had, there's some purple in there, and different variations depending where the records were pressed, whether they were pressed in America or in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And no, Pablo is not releasing records. However, I know Acoustic Sounds has repressed a couple of them, really, really good things. Good. I think they did 3 or 4 back a few years back. And I'll tell you what, Blue Note's getting repressed, the Prestige, Verve, a number of the other contemporary records. Somebody ought to get a hold of this Pablo catalog and do audiophile recordings for the people who can't find the records. I think the problem, though, Nadine, is that Pablo records are still pretty easy to find. I mean, I'm going to talk about this record here, but this record, it's Zoot Sims plays Johnny Mandel. Great record. Great record. If you notice, this is sealed. It's a sealed copy. It's an overrun, but it's a sealed copy. I just got it a couple of days ago. I paid $11 for this American. And I'm going to tell you how I bought this. I know maybe I'm ahead of myself here, but I had the CD. What's wrong with where did I put it? I had the CD, and I loved the CD, and I wasn't able to get a mint copy, but sure enough, one showed up, and I bought it at $11. I think I paid more for the CD back then. Yeah. And so they're around, and I think maybe because Pablo is still fairly available through Discogs and wherever you buy your used records, you can't find original Blue Notes. You can find original Pablos because people don't know about it. And maybe after this video, God, maybe Nadine, maybe we're driving the price up.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But why do you think Norman he was not signing the latest, hottest artist? He was more into getting the established artists. Why do you think was that?
He started doing that because of Jazz at the Philharmonic. When he was with, I believe, Verve, and I don't know if they did any on Clef or Norgram. I think they might have, but JTP, Jazz at the Philharmonic, was a Norman Granz, extravaganza where he'd bring in 10, 15 great players and tour the world. And when he started Pablo, I think because of the investment, he didn't want to take a chance on younger players, unfortunately. So he brought the established people in, and they were putting different combinations, quintets, sextets, some big band with Basie and Ella, but established names that he knew his investment would get payback, and he would sell these records, which he did. It's a good idea.
Are there Pablo records out there who are more expensive than $10? Are there rare?
Oh, yeah.
Pablo out
Yeah,
there?
I think, I think this mint, I got lucky on this mint copy of the Mandel Zoot Sims, but I think that sealed is probably worth, I bet mint sealed on that's probably a $25. And a Blue Note tone post here, I know in Germany it's 50, 55 US, but here a tone post $48, I guess.
On original?
The new tone posts that are being reissued.
Oh, okay.
So the Pablos that are around are less than half the price, and they sound great. They're wonderful. They hired great engineers. They hired a guy named Val Valentine, who is a great engineer, and some other people. I've yet to hear a really bad sounding. There are some that are better than others, but a really bad one. They're all really pretty good.
Jack, do you have some recommendations for us? If we find a Pablo, which one should we get?
Wow. Well, if you want to go by artists, I have a pile here. Yeah, let's see.
Okay, hold on.
I just quickly pull some off my shelf here before we got going. Of course, this Zoot Sims is just a wonderful record. I put this in my top 10. This is another precedent, and this came from a place called Disco 100 in Barcelona. And this, I don't know who did this. It's a label. It's a company called Elemental Music. I have not heard this. So I don't know what it sounds like, but it's an 80 gram vinyl, 2 extra bonus tracks. I don't know. But the one I'm really anxious to hear, I'm going to do that tonight. It's right here. Right here. This is
Michael is asking, hold on, is Pablo see one and buy it? So if
as far as I'm concerned, if I don't have it, I buy it. Like I say, I've yet to hear a bad sounding one. I have one I'm going to talk about that musically. I don't know why they ever did it, but I think maybe Harry S. and those guys, they needed the money, so they got it. But most of them sound really, really, really great. Duke Ellington. This is a great record. Duke with Louis Bellson. Louis on this and Joe Pass. Joe Pass. I think the first Pablo that was ever made was Joe Pass and Oscar, and probably Ray Brown. That might be the original. Sorry, I'm over right.
I think this one is considered as one of the Pablo's must-have, one of the best Pablo releases.
It is a must-have. It is a must-have, as is this particular record. This one's for Blanton. Jimmy Blanton was a bass player with Duke, and I think that Jimmy Blanton was credited with being one of the first bassists to actually walking bass and to solo as a featured artist. And this record was done back in 1973, and it's a just piano and bass. It's a great record. And this again, it's the original U.S. pressing, but it's a must-have, and it's RCA did the distribution on that. That's a must-have. This wouldn't be a must-have, but it's up there. This is, I believe, the last one of the last recordings that what's his face, the alto player with Duke, played in. I can't find it because I think there's one or two cuts he plays it. It's the last recording. My mind, I can't think of his name right now. Anyhow, Duke's lead alto player died during the make of this. This is a number of takes in the early 70s and late 60s sessions put on one record, and it's just a great record. So you have Duke on there, and you have a lot of Count Basie. There's got to be 50 to 100 records or more on Pablo that Basie played on either small groups. This, I know Acoustic Sounds has redone, and it's really, really good. And this, when you see a color cover, you know it's a later Pablo.
A what Pablo?
Later in their edition. It's an 800 series, which means it was done. It was put out in probably early 80s, 1982, maybe 83. But this is one of the best sounding records that they have. So there's a question. So let's see what we have. It's to my knowledge, it's all analog up until probably 1982 or 83, and then there was some digital put in, but they didn't actually start selling CDs until 1984. So everything prior to that, at least 1980, I'm guessing it's probably all analog. They don't make mention of it on their records, unfortunately. Here's a record called Basie Jam. That's another good one. And you've got an all-star lineup on this. Of course, Basie, Belson, Ray Brown, JJ on trombone, Harry Anderson, Eddie Lockjaw Davis, and Zoot on one record. And look at the price. Can you see the price on it?
I think it says $7.
$7. And it is in prime condition.
Wow, yeah.
And it's not uncommon. People don't know about Pablo. Like I say, we do keep doing these videos. They're going to know. And I hope that the prices and availability stays where it is. It's really good right now. Another Basie, Kansas City 7, in the same era. And I bet you these sessions might have overlapped, some of them. This was done in 1980, and they released it in 84. Norman Granz would hold these tapes for a number of years and then release them. I don't know why they didn't come out in the same time. This is actually a 900 series record, which is late, to come out in 84 and be recorded, 4 years earlier. To me, it makes no sense, but that's what they did. Great personnel. And again, here's you can find Japanese pressings. It's an MTF number for Japan, but the Pablo number is still they show the original jacket. Let's see how I get this out. And here's an interesting Pablo center disc. That's what the Japanese pressings look like. They're just in black, plain black and white, and they'll have the obi on them. And if you get real lucky, they'll have the Japanese liner notes inside with some pictures of some of the other Japanese records.
Jack, in your opinion, are the Japanese pressings sounding better than the American ones? Do you hear a difference?
Yeah, I for the most part, I would say generally yes, but not. I'll tell you, you get a clean Pablo record, they sound great. I mean, yes, I wouldn't go paying a double the price. If you can find these around, pick them up. But the original Pablos sound really, really good. There are other labels that the Japanese stuff is really, really quite improved. But boy, I'll tell you, Pablo really had it together. They used every bit of RCA's R&D and their engineers to really make good stuff. Here's another one. This is another Japanese pressing, but this one is a purple and white. And this, of course, is a later Pablo. What's interesting about this is it doesn't have the Pablo number on it. It just has an MTF, which is the Japanese number, MTF 1611. This sounds great. I will tell you that this does sound better than the American version. This is one that does. But again, is it worth double or triple the price? To me, it's not. Some people want to do that. Here's one of the great must-haves, 88 Basis Street. I know that Acoustic Sounds redid this one too, and this is again in their 900 series, and it's one of, I think, Basie's last really good band that he had before he passed.
Jack, this jacket looks like new. It looks
Well,
like
yeah, and believe me, you can't find these used. And this is a new. This is probably, I had to look in Discogs. I probably bought this maybe 2 years ago, and it was put out in 1983 and recorded in '83, out in '84. So these have not been reissued. These are not reissues, and I don't think there's a Pablo record pressed in America that I paid more than $20 for. And you can look in some of these. One of the things that really irritates me is when you go to use a record store and the store puts the price on the inner jacket and you can't get it off. But here's one here. You'll love this one. This is a great record, Oscar Peterson, and it's in their 800 series with Oscar and Niels Henning Orsted Peterson and Bobby Durham. And you can see the price on that one. $12.99, folks. $12.99. So they're around. Just check them out. This looks like a Jazz at the Philharmonic group, and that's Norman Granz's history. That's what he came from. These big groups like this, personally, I don't really care. I like the smaller group things better, but it's really good. Here's a great
concerning the live recording. Sorry, could you hold up the live record again?
Which one was that?
Yeah, you just showed Montreux 77.
Yeah. Let me take it out of the cover here so you don't get the glare.
Yeah. So for those of you who are into live recordings of jazz, Pablo is highly been praised for their coverage of the 1975 Montreux Jazz Festival and also the 1977 Montreux Jazz Festival. The live recordings were absolutely state of the art, and like Jack said, you can get these live recordings between $5 to $10. And yes, Michael, the cover art is absolutely, you can't beat that.
Yeah, I have twice the amount of records I have here. I have back here, and these are just the ones that personally I enjoy kind of more than the others. I've been asked to do. I have a degree in music and made a living as a musician for about 20 years in New York, and I'm a trumpet player, so I've been asked a lot from folks to do my top 10 favorite trumpet players. It's really hard to do, and I don't think I'll ever do it. But I will tell you that, and I know this might be controversial, but for me, Miles Davis, I love Miles. Believe me, I love Miles. He'd be in the top 10, but not in the top 5. One person that would be in the top 5, personally for me, in my opinion, is Harry Edison. Harry what a great player. There was 19 Frank Sinatra records in a row that Harry did the muted trumpet in the background on. Sinatra loved Harry's playing, and Harry worked with Basie and on his own a lot, and I just love his playing. He did a record with Oscar Peterson called Oscar Peterson and Harry Edison. Like Nadine said, the cover art is not great. They didn't come up with clever names for their records, but it tells you exactly what they are. I love this photograph of Oscar.
What's your favorite track on that record?
It's a hard one, but I'll tell you which one it is. It would be very first cut, Easy Living. It's a ballad, and Harry just plays so. They call them suites. It was, I think, Lester Young gave him that name, and he just plays so great on that record. And this is a must-have as far as I'm concerned. This will be in my top 5. And why I spent so much time on that record is because my latest Harry Edison Pablo record is a record called Simply Sweets. I talked about this in my last video. I got it. It's in good condition. Sounds great. But this is the one Pablo record in my library that I don't care for. Sound wise, yes. Musically, it's just, he plays you're gonna love this. There's a tune called, American tune, very popular pop tune back 40 years ago called Feelings. Don't get mad at me if you all love this tune, but to me, it's one of the 3 worst tunes ever.
I love this. I love the version from Ella Fitzgerald. Feelings.
Ella,
it's one of my favorite songs ever, and I can't hear enough cover versions of it.
Ella could make Feelings sound like the greatest tune ever written.
Exactly.
I mean, God, but the version of that on here, I sat down and listened to it, and it sounded like a wedding band. I mean, it was horrible.
I need to have this record.
I mean, Harry must need the money. It's just not a good record. Another great Harry Edison and Pablo is Edison Lights. Take off on the electricity, Thomas Edison, Harry Edison. And he does a version of Ain't Misbehavin' on here, which is great. And it's with Eddie Loxo Davis, Jimmy Smith, the drummer, not the organist, and Sean Hura on bass. Dolo Coker, really a great pianist. And you got to love this on the back. William Basie, piano. Back in the late 70s, probably 76, 77. Anyhow, just great stuff.
Would you consider the Pablo records as what's now these inward audiophile recordings? If somebody's asking you, say, I need an audiophile recording which is cheap, is this an audiophile recording?
Yeah, you know what? There's nothing that they've done that people consider an audiophile recording. But then again, neither were the early contemporaries back when they came out in the 70s. Everybody knew how great they were. And I think people kind of knew how great Pablo was, but I think they never knew how really great it was. And these records sound so good. Engineering, production, just wonderful. Someone asked about the digital stuff. And how about this? They got really adventuresome back, in the 80s.
Oh, look.
Look at that one. This happens to be a really good record, but it really doesn't sound analog at all. It's very digitized. But at least they're upfront with it, and they don't try to hide it. It was done.
No, maybe MoFi gets an idea for their.
Why not? I mean, but back then, this was in the early 80s, and people wanted to be digital back then.
Yeah, that was the it thing. So that was a very good idea to do that.
But Eddie had Vincent on alto and Eddie Loxo Davis and Harry, and this is a great record. Great record. And I guess after the other covers, they tried to market these a little differently. But to me, I like the black and white photography. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a photographer. Maybe it's because I just think the black and white stuff says Pablo. We all know it. For what it is. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show you. Let's talk about 2 more, and then I got 3 underrated Pablos. This is a great record. And this is a Pablo recording. And it was, let's see, I'm looking on the back here. I don't know. I should be better prepared to this. I think this is European, and I got this from Record Mania in somewhere it says Scandinavian original. Excellent, excellent plus. 75 kroner. So must be Sweden, maybe Denmark. But look at this one.
Wow, they had some various variations of labels.
Yeah. But this was bought from a record store in somewhere in, I think, Sweden, maybe Denmark. Let's see here.
Mhm.
In really good condition. And this is a great record. Mickey Roker did a lot of work with Dizzy. And this I would put in my top 5. Great, great sounding record.
When was that released? What year was that?
This was released in 79, recorded in 77. Anything that a gentleman named Val Valentine does the engineering on, it was really done well. He was a great, great engineer. But yeah, this is it's a must-have. And then the other must-have, of course, a lot that's very well known, is the Zoot Sims Hawthorne Nights. And there's some great players on here. Zoot, this is done out in LA. So you had Kamuka on tenor and clarinet. Kamuka played with Shelly Manne quite a bit in the West Coast. A very, very young Jerome Richardson's on this record, on soprano. Frank Rossellino on trombone. Tragic guy. Always joking, always smiling. But, I hate to, this is not doom and gloom here, folks. But Frank, he killed some of his family and then shot himself and killed himself. Tragically. But what a great player. He's on this. Snooky Young. Those of you who don't know Snooky Young, I'll tell you a little bit about Snooky. Snooky was the kind of the little skinny black trumpet player in the Tonight Show band with Johnny Carson. He was also the lead player in the Mel Lewis Jones band for many, many years. Snooky would overdub. I think he overdubbed Doc Severinsen, who was the band leader on Carson. Overdubbed his notes and made Doc sound pretty good. Snooky was a great player. He's on this. Bonnie Budwig, Nick Ceroli on drums, great drummer. Nick Ceroli made a lot of great jazz. Worked with a lot of great jazz groups. He was also the drummer with Herb Alpert in Tijuana Brass. Can you believe that? Nick Ceroli and Ross Tompkins on piano. Bill Holman, great arranger, great composer. This is in the top 5. You got to have this one. So find this. This was, nothing. This is Pablo, not reissued. And it sounds great. So it's really great. Let's talk about 3 underrated Pablos. This is another group. I think it was probably the same session as that one with Mickey Roker. Another Dizzy group called Jazz Maturity. This is in the 800 series. Dizzy's best playing ever, I think, is on this record. You like this, Gillespie? And look at that group. Look at that group. Very underrated. Number 2, very underrated. Michel Legrand on piano. This looks like a commercial record, but it is. It's not heavy duty jazz, but it's beautiful, beautiful playing. And you know who's on this? Zoot Sims and Phil Woods. Can you imagine those two on one record? Grady Tate, Ron Carter, and Michelle on piano, with Joe Wilder on trumpet. Not one of my favorite trumpet players, but good. And of course, there's your.
When was that released? It looks like late 70s.
This is 82, probably came out in, I don't know, probably 83, 84. But these showed up in the 80s. This is digital. There's a lot of digital sounding things on here. That's not an AAA. my view, it's an ADA, but it does sound good, and it's great to hear Phil Woods and Zoot together. And here's one that a lot of people don't know about, and it is everything that they say on the label. This was a very late reissued in since 1981. This is a German pressing. And I know this is going to surprise some of you after seeing Count Basie and Duke Ellington and Harry Edison and all these older guys. Check this out.
Wow.
And there's only 2 tunes on here. There's almost an 18-minute tune on side 1, Bye Bye Blackbird. Side 2 is a tune called Training In. It's a blues with Coltrane, McCoy, Jimmy Garrison, and Eldon. It's the same group as the Impulse stuff. And, you know, man, again, Nadine, you were so correct in saying how great the live recordings were. This is amazing. It's an amazing record. And this, again, I know I paid less than $20 for this. And if you can find it, find it. The live stuff will have that blue stuff on top a lot of times. This is a much later issue record. It's in the 2308 227. But when you see this, I think this probably came. I have to look this up on Discogs. I don't want to give you bad information, but it was recorded, you know, back in 1980, 81, and it's just an amazing record. See John Coltrane on Pablo, amazing.
Wow, Jack, no Ella.
No,
Ella Fitzgerald.
well, no, I have some Ellas, and I have the same ones as you have. I would almost defer to you. You're the Pablo Ella expert. Ella Fitzgerald could make. I mean, she could sing the B flat scale and make it sound good. She's just amazing. There are, you know, and again, don't go by me, but I'm not. I have about 5 vocalists that I enjoy. Ella's 1, Sarah Vaughan is 2. There's a young, Tierney's got to be probably in her late 40s or 50s. Now, Tierney Sutton is an amazing vocalist. She's got nothing out on vinyl, to my knowledge. It's all on CD. Carmen McRae is another one that I really enjoy. But man, I'll tell you what, there's nobody like Ella. And Norman knew that, and he knew if Verve was gonna happen, he needed Ella.
Hmm.
And you know, it's relationships. You know, he worked with Oscar a lot, and Ray Brown was Oscar's pianist, and Ella was married to Ray Brown for a number of years. That's how that happened. But yeah, I mean, I have yet to hear a bad Ella on Pablo. I have yet to hear a bad Ella Fitzgerald record, period.
Yeah. So interestingly, Sarah Vaughan also recorded for Pablo in the
I have no Sarah Vaughan.
No recommendation from you for Sarah Vaughan. I mean,
I don't have any Sarah Vaughan on, and I'll tell you why, because I've never found a clean one. I've never been able to find a clean. I did buy one, and it was like it was supposed to be a very good plus, and it turned out to be a very bad minus when I got it home to play it. I tried cleaning it, tried everything, I couldn't get it. It was just worn. And but truthfully, I need to buy some more Sarah on Pablo. Stuff's great. What an underappreciated record label. If you could name me a record label that's more, and I'll go through a couple. We mentioned them maybe before we went on the stream here. Muse is another label. I'm going to leave some out. Black Lion, Xanadu, Inner City. These are great. There's great stuff on these labels. Why are we're so blue now? Everything's blue now. No disrespect. It's great music. And I have it. See that there? Those are all tone poets. So I get it. It's all good. But man, there's just so much good stuff around, and that's why I tend to put my time here on the vinyl community on not the reissues. I leave that to people like Michael, who's a great job, and the Jazz Bums and Basie, and I'm going to leave people out here, but they do great stuff, and I don't want to redo what's been done. So I tend to talk about things like that. It's just where I'm at.
Actually, while you mention it, I have never seen, in all my hunts for Pablo Records, I have never seen a Sarah Vaughan Pablo. Now we've talked about it. Never. I see Ella, I see Count, I see Joe Pass, but never Sarah Vaughan.
Yeah, well, like I said, I saw that one and I bought it because they're hard to find, and it was disappointing, unfortunately. It'd be interesting to look on Discogs and see what the Sarah Vaughan Pablos are going for. I bet they're going for more money. Probably still a value, but probably more money than Ella because of the availability. She didn't record that much as as Ella did with Pablo either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Sarah, there are some great live recordings also from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I got very cheaply. I got a double LP from Japan, which sounds great. So I can only recommend that who was new to this to check out Sarah Vaughan. The first time I heard Sarah Vaughan, it was on a YouTube clip from I think '62 when she was in Sweden and she sang Misty. Yeah. And I was like, wow. And at the end of the song, she said, I'm sorry if my voice is not sounding so good. I've got the flu. And I said, how do you sound when you're not having the flu? She's brilliant.
Yeah. No, we're so blessed to still have this stuff available. And I would encourage everybody, when you're in your record stores or your record shows or whatever you go to, keep your eye out. And Pablos are pretty easy to find because they're normally, those black and white covers, and they do stand out when you're flipping through the bins, and pick them up because, in 10 years from now, they're not going to be as available as they are now. And I hope Concord owns the tapes, I think. They're the last company I saw that bought Pablo, the Pablo label. And, I know that they're working with Kraft and some other people to put out reissues. I hope they'll take some of these Pablos, maybe not today, but maybe a few years from now, and please put them out. Angelo, the rough point would be probably the early 80s, 82, 83, 84. I would say that's about the time that happened.
They are very open, like Jack said. I'll make me big for a moment. You have the thing that they write digital.
Yeah.
On the cover, so you're pretty sure if it's digital or not. So they were very transparent even back in the day. Yeah.
There was a lull, between 1984. I think a few more records came out about 1989, maybe 1990 in that period. But there was about a 4 or 5 year stint there where nothing from Pablo was reissued, and then a few things showed up, and then they stopped. But there's if you look on the Wikipedia site, they'll list all the Pablo records that were recorded. And I think Norman did about 600 of them. And some of them I can't find. I probably own maybe a third of their catalog. I wish I had all of them. But, there's some I wish that the tapes are there. I wish they they do something with, because it's music is to me every bit as valuable as some of the tone poets and the Riversides and Verves that are being reissued today.
Yeah, I think, Jack, you made a very, very, very good point. Now is the time, if you want an original, to go for it, because they are cheap. They're now available. They sound fantastic, and if you find them in a record store, I personally have never seen in a record store not a record which wasn't VG++. They are almost in a
very,
very good condition. And like Jack said, maybe in 10 years or even in 5 years, the market will be also very difficult, or you pay then 20, 30, 50 euro for a Pablo record.
I bet you, I would be willing to bet you that somewhere there are some master tapes that Norman Granz did with Pablo, and maybe with Verve, but certainly with Pablo, that were never even issued. I bet there's stuff that never even came out. He was prolific in terms of recording. I mean, he was up there with. I mean, he did a lot of stuff with Pablo, and I bet you there's stuff we don't even know about.
Do you think Norman considered Pablo a low-budget jazz label? That's why it's so widely available?
I don't know. I almost think that, when he sold Verve, he kind of just hung out in Europe for a number of years and got bored, because, he owned Clef and Norgren and Verve, and then walked away. And I think he needed that, that record label. That was his life. He was a promoter. He wanted to not only promote jazz, but record it so the masses could hear it. And I think that's why I started Pablo. I think he was bored. I can relate to that. I really think that's why he did that. Thank God he did.
All right, Liam, Nadine, can you show the label again, please? Yes, there are many label variations with Pablo, but I'll show you one. There are many different colors depending on what country you bought, which version you had. Hold on. I call it the peeing dog.
Yeah, that's German label.
Yes, that's the German. And as you can see, I bought this in a record store. It's new. It's never been played. You can see the spine. That also happens very often with this Pablo label. I have the feeling that it's never been played, but it has very many color variations. Like
the digital stuff, I think in the live stuff later turns to be the purple.
Hold on, I'll make you big. So
the purple and white label. The later stuff, you see purple in their front covers and on the label. Some other variations I think I probably showed you. Here's the one from Scandinavia.
Also looks like never been played.
Yeah, it's been played. I have to tell you, I listen to a lot of Pablo. This one I talked about here, this digital record, this was actually done on red vinyl.
Wow.
It's all marketing. I think it's all marketing. That's why they did the cover like that, but this is a good record. We talked about that. Pick this one up if you can find it. Other than that, Japanese white, the black and white, I think covered everything I have. I don't know if you have any other colored looking Pablo records, but hey, it's in here somewhere. It's that black and white Japanese Pablo record. And again, I don't think the Japanese pressings for Pablo are that much better than the American or European pressings. They are on other labels, but I don't think a Pablo is. The Basie one is. Count Basie. There you go.
No, I don't have the. No, I also have this German one, which some kind of orange label to it.
There you go.
But like I said, that's now we are creating a FOMO, Jack. We
Yeah,
are creating a FOMO. Michael was right. We are now making. We should have bought Pablo's before we did the stream.
that's what I said.
We would have offered after the streams.
We're creating a monster.
Yes.
And Nadine, in a year from now, when we're back and we're complaining about how expensive Pablo's are,
Yeah.
this market, this record market, and Michael so eloquently has really analyzed it. It's insanity sometimes what people pay for records. And the price of used recordings, it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. I draw a line. I just have a certain amount I'll pay for something, and if I don't get it, it's okay.
Do you know, Jack, what a vinyl consultant is?
No.
So I got somebody got in touch with me via Instagram and asked me if I would like to be a vinyl consultant. And I said, what the hell is a vinyl consultant? And he said, well, he's also a vinyl consultant. He has been hired by stock markets as people who have a lot of money to buy vinyl. And he said these people don't even have a record player. So buy the most best version of a record to have it as a money thing to sell later on.
Yeah.
I said, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, but you know what? This is a temporary, and I think Michael 45 has really gotten into this a lot, and I think he's 100% correct. I think that this market is very volatile, and it could go up. Look at the MoFi thing. I mean, look at how much money people lost on MoFis. And Basie made a great comment. He said, "Did your MoFi sound worse the day after you found out that they were digitized in your mind?" It's a psychological thing sometimes. I don't know. It's a whole other thing, but I think that to invest in records because they're valuable, it's a dangerous road to go down. It can change so quickly.
It's like with the stock market.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably maybe 100 records ever made that, if you can find originals, it's worth having and invest them and put them, some. But things like this, I just don't. If you have an endless bank account, go for it. But I would, having said that, if you're going to buy a record, try to find a good pressing. Let me just pull this up. I'll leave you for a second.
No problem. So if you're
This
guys
is a Pablo record. This came today. This came in the mail today from Germany, and ECM is putting new things out and reissues, but I won't buy an ECM record unless it's a German press. I won't buy it. It has to be a German press because they sound so much better than American presses on that particular label. Anyhow, this spending money on vinyl, it's addictive, I think, at times, and it has to be kept in perspective, certainly.
Yes, it's absolutely. Every month I'm telling me, Nadine, you're not buying records. Now it's the first, and today I bought two records.
It's okay. Keeps you out of the bars,
Yeah.
Hey, we have a group here. Do we get everybody's questions?
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I have an eye on it. So if somebody is having a question to Jack, please go ahead. And so let's see. Back in the day, Pablo were often displayed as a group in a wall display of 8 by 8 LPs. With the stunning black covers, it was really striking. The prices seemed to be $1 or less than. Wow.
Yeah, well, $1 now is $10. Well, you can still find Pablos. I mean, anywhere from, I'd say in the US now, anywhere from $7 to $20. I'd say the average going price for a really good, fairly clean, a VG Plus or better Pablo is probably $12 to $15.
So that's exactly the impression people still have. So that there were budget label with has-beens.
Yeah,
So
well, those has-beens are pretty good players.
yeah, and just because they're older, I think we also discussed it before we started the stream is with Ella Fitzgerald. She recorded some stuff when she was 70 by the late 70s, and she had a perfect phrasing and everything, and she didn't sound like 70. So just because you're older, that's not that you're worse, you know. That's what I don't.
It's the music. Like Basie said, it's the music, stupid. And you know, I tell you what, there's some great young players playing these days too that are not getting the recognition I think that they should. And I'll take, you know, I mean, I should probably talk about them more than Harry Anderson, maybe. I don't know, but you know, I mean. You know, I've been a professional photographer for many years, and if you want to go back and look at some of the great photographers like Stieglitz and Paul Strand and some of these other guys and gals, we don't look at their work because it's not a big digital print and it's not like photography today looks. We don't listen to enough Louis Armstrong because the recordings are scratchy and they weren't done, you know, Bernie Grundman didn't remaster them and they're not, you know, they don't sound like a Blue Note tone poet. But musically, the value in that music is unsurpassed.
Absolutely.
You know, and we don't listen to it because it doesn't sound as good. Sonic, but musically, it's awesome.
Analog Productions did some great reissues, Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong.
Yes.
And again,
I'm talking about Armstrong's recordings back in the 30s, the Hot Fives, the Hot Sevens. Okay. You know, I mean, I'll tell you what, there are people who can make the comment if there's no Louis Armstrong, you know, there'd be no Tony Bennett. I mean, I've heard Tony Bennett said his biggest influence was Louis. His singing, you know.
Yeah, he opened many doors, you know, back in those days for
many people would consider people like Louis and even more up to date than that. You know, maybe even early Dizzy, you know, as has-beens. Man, musically, this stuff is it's smoking. It's great stuff. It really is. But then again, when you're 110 years old like me, that's what you listen to.
You're not 110.
Well,
you are
105.
105.
But you know, here's an old Metheny record. You know, a lot of people say you listen to that and then you listen to Harry Anderson. Absolutely, it's all good. It's all good.
So, guys and girls out there, I'm so happy that you enjoy the stream so much. Do you have some questions for Jack? It's been great so far. So you live in Boston. Or just play, yeah, okay. So you have to visually inspect them, and also if you're into the record store and they have a turntable, play it. That's what I do, because sometimes when they're warped, you won't see that, so put it on the turntable.
You know, a good thing to do with Pablos, I do it. If I see a Pablo that I don't have, number one, or that I haven't seen, like a Sarah Vaughan or something like that, I don't care what condition it's in, unless it looks like somebody stepped on it. And if it looks okay, I'll take a chance and buy it. What's the worst that could happen? I throw it in the garbage because it's only going to be maybe $10.
Yeah.
But if it's really hard to find, like the Sarah Vaughan stuff, or if something I don't have that I know is not right, if it looks like it's okay, I'll take a chance. And they don't all work out, but some of the stuff's getting a little bit harder to find.
Absolutely. So, everybody, if you are not having any more questions, thank you, Vincent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent.
Also, Angelo, thank you very much. And if somebody wants the number of the vinyl consultant, just let me know.
It's amazing. You should say, yeah. I mean, I'll be happy to do that. And my retainer is, it's 5,000 euros a month. I'll be happy to tell you.
I'm the wrong person for that. I open records which are in shrink for decades, and I play them. That's what I do.
You and me both. And that's what I think a lot of us do. And it's all good.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Jack. It was a pleasure. We absolutely need to repeat that.
And I appreciate you having me on here. And to the many people I recognize their names, John, for one. We'll see you down the road on other streams or whatever. Any questions? Let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. And have a nice evening, everybody. Have a nice afternoon wherever you are.
Thank you very much.